Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. I have a pet peeve, and that is people that say that you don't need to be a reader to be a writer. I think this is complete bullshit, and we're gonna talk about it. I was actually on Twitter the other day, and I was in the writing community and watching people talk about this and go back and forth on it, and I don't get involved in anything that's just going to end up being a fight with people. But dang it, I will bring the fight to our YouTube channel. And that's what we're going to do. I just do not understand this concept of you want to write a story and you think it's going to be marketable to readers, which you're not one of. And it's like saying, well, I'm going to be a brain surgeon, but I'm not going to know anything about brains. I would love to see how that goes for you, and I don't want to use you as my brain surgeon. So we're going to kind of go through these ideas and explain to you why it is so important that you are a reader.
So we've done a video in the past called storytelling versus writing and how those two things are different. You don't have to be a reader to be a storyteller. You could sit around a campfire with your family and regale them with the grandest tales that you're coming up with off the top of your head, and that makes you a good storyteller. That does not make you a good writer.
And reading can be more than just literally opening a book and flipping through pages.
Yeah.
I love audiobooks, and I will tell you, I've read a book that I listened to on audio. Here's a great example. All of the ones in the Folk of Air, I actually listened to on audiobooks, and I immensely enjoyed it. And I actually felt like I had grown by listening to them on audiobooks as a writer. And so somebody reading to you is reading. You reading to somebody is reading. You picking up a book is reading. You listening to an audiobook, it's reading.
It doesn't really matter what you're reading as long as you're reading. So even if you don't have time to do it a lot, you're still a reader.
So why? Why do you need to be a reader to be a writer? First and foremost, to increase your vocabulary. You only know what you know. And if you're not reading, your vocabulary is going to become very stagnant. I can't tell you how many times I've read a love scene, because love scenes can get kind of tricky, especially when you are trying to write them in a semi-graphic way. And you want to be creative in the way that you're stating certain things happening. And I've read other stories that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of saying it like that. Like, that's a great way to put that. Now I can put my own style on it and spin it and use that type of sentencing or description. Look, all life is about is taking what other people have already done and turning it into your own.
Yeah.
That's what reading does for you.
And that sort of goes into the next thing that reading does. It shows you different ways to cultivate your style. If you're not reading at all and you're only writing in the style that you have grown accustomed to, then you're not growing at all. And nothing can teach you how to take your inner monologue and your dialogue and your description and get it all to flow together. Unless you're in like a literal creative writing class, you have to figure it out by reading, especially to read in the genre that you're writing in. My degree helped me with the technical part of it, like knowing all the rules and all that. But as far as my style of writing, I didn't learn that in college. I didn't learn that in high school. I learned that from reading and from just practicing and trying different things until I figured out what it was that worked for me. And even when I found out what it was that worked for me, I still continued to read and to learn so that I could grow even more.
The other reason that you should be reading, especially while you're writing, I think that a lot of people feel like to be reading and writing ends up being conflicting in some type of way. especially when you are reading something that is similar to what you're writing. So if you're writing, a fantasy, you don't want to be reading fantasy. And I used to kind of buy into this. And I would probably say in the last year and a half, I've knocked that off and have found myself allowing stories in the genre I'm writing to sweep me away and help inspire me to write my story. So in the last year and a half, have been really heavy in fantasy romance because that's what I'm writing. And I think that has been such a game changer.
The next one is just for Wattpad writers. This isn't really going to affect anybody else, but this does affect the Wattpad community. And before I say this, we don't mean any offense to Wattpad writers because we are Wattpad writers. So this is not meant to be offense at all. You need to read more than just Wattpad books. You need to read published books as well. There's a difference between the two. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but there is a difference, especially when it comes to chapter length and the way things flow and how much description and internal monologue you give. So yes, it is a big difference. What do you think inspired all of us as Wattpad writers to be writers, if not books that were published before Wattpad was a thing?
And this goes along too with what Rachel's point was about reading books off of Wattpad, is that you need to know the industry. You need to know what is popular in the age category and the genre that you're writing in. These are the stories that you're going to compete with. As much as we love them and the writing community is such an open and loving place, the bottom line is that there's only one number one. And if you want to be number one day, there's a trend there, and it is timeless. And you need to know what that trend is in that genre.
Last but not least, but the least pressure for sure, reading can just take you away from your story for a minute, because sometimes we just need to step back and take a break, because sometimes we get overwhelmed, we might get stuck, we might just need a moment. Pick up that book and just read something. It doesn't even have to be anything that's necessarily related to what you're writing or anything. Just whatever you like to read. Pick it up and let it take you away. And then when you come back, you will be hopefully refreshed and ready to look at your story with new eyes.
So we hope this video inspires you to pick up some books and read. And don't think that there isn't something to be learned by reading. Even if you're not reading, go get an audiobook. Oh my God, a subscription to Audible is so worth it. Just anything so that you're feeding your creativity.
So if you want to go read some of our stories as an escape from your story, please go to our Wattpad at Crystal and Felicity.
And don't forget, if you love this video, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications so you never miss a Friday upload.
And as always, write what you love.